Hey, this is Cameron, and welcome to the practice log. It's a brand new week, and it's a gloomy day, because of course it is. Alright, well, let's go ahead and get to the seat, shall we? And now you might be curious, Cameron, what's with the different mic? The other mic broke. It's not working anymore. This one works. This show is just hanging on by a thread, guys. It's amazing that it's held on this far with daily uploads. This is the last line of defense. This is a matched pair, so after this one craps out, we got one more. After that, we're pretty much out of mics. It's kind of a throwback to the first videos. This is the mic that I started with. So, pretty cool. I've had a nice weekend. I've been trying to rest and relax, all that stuff. Yeah, but I'm ready to get back to it. I haven't played much guitar this weekend, so I'm ready to jump into the Bach and the Morel. I did play through some stuff. I didn't really practice though. Probably need to buff my nails too. For the Docket today, we want to break new ground in the Presto. That's the last thing that we need in the Bach, and then just memorizing everything else. And that's pretty much where we're at. The soar Mozart variations, that's a thing. We need to get good with that. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. So, I've been taking this time to answer common questions. Let's take a look at the comments section. This is kind of an interesting thread that's been happening. So I posted a video about Elliot Fisk exposing him for the sinner that he is, in sore hands fashion. I don't actually mean that. He's not any more of a sinner than any of us, right? I think there might actually be more controversy about Elliot Fisk's playing than John Williams, which is kind of crazy. So we need to dive into that. Like, a lot of people really respect and love Elliot Fisk's playing, of course, but I'm getting a lot of hate. Let's start with some love. This one is from K Musica. It's Karen. Hey, how's it going? He said Elliot Fisk is untouchable when it comes to his technical skills, but his musical interpretation is meh. Oh, I didn't read your comment. You're kind of dogging on him a little bit. And then you said, Cameron, I found an emoji of you, and you posted the beard guy emoji. That is an emoji of me. Alright, so his interpretation is meh. I actually hadn't listened to much Elliot Fisk. I watched his 24 Caprices, the Paganini. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, at least in that performance, it's kind of the opposite, where his technique wasn't really there, but his interpretation was really cool. This one is from Neil Stewart. It seems like this one's more on the hate side. Elliot Fisk, the only up there in the pantheon guitarist I just can't appreciate. Forgive me. You are forgiven. I have really tried. Well, you know, you did your best. To me, his musicality is like the proverbial bull in a china shop. No nuance, all aggression. Alright, and then Scott Canuck, he's joining in the fight. I tend to agree. There was a time, back in my day, there was a time when virtuosity was all that counted. Now, with technology, we can make virtually every recorded performance faster and more accurate. What, by speeding it up? With technology. I know you're not saying that, but I'm imagining we have bionic hands now. We can just play everything super fast and accurate. As the generations go by, the kids learn how to play it better. But does it move the audience? Make them feel? Demonstrate the player's love and common humanity towards them? Question mark. That's an excellent question. Let's hear some Elliot Fisk Bach. Is it really that bad? It's probably not that bad. Is it any worse than my Bach? Yeah, I mean, his technique is a little weird, isn't it? I'm not really sure about that. Also, I really appreciate one of the comments on this video. Strong performance. Wish I had chops like yours. Thank you for posting. As if Elliot Fisk himself posted that, like how I post my videos. I mean, I didn't listen to that much of it. He sounds like he's doing it, though. And he learned his Bach suite, which hats off to him. That's what I'm trying to do. Alright, we'll do one more. This one is to wrap it up, just to make Elliot Fisk feel good. So this one is from Tailfoot. Tailfoot. How's it going? Love Elliot Fisk. I was initially turned off by his tone and non-perfection. Eventually, I learned to appreciate his ability to express like no other and push the boundaries of comfortability. He always sounded fresh, not over-rehearsed. Yeah, me either. He makes you really feel it, and sometimes wonder if he's going to make it out of the piece unscathed. I like to think that I have that effect as well. It's like an underdog story. Like, is he gonna make it to the end of this thing? Check out how he plays Targa Tremolo piece, beginning. That's what I call it too. Beginning, minor part, two different ways in the same performance. It comes across like the idea just crossed his mind. Yeah, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? And I will check that out. I haven't listened to that one. Well, so there's a lot going on with Elliot Fisk. He's a controversial character. We'll definitely feature him more. I've listened to a little bit of him recently. I'm gonna listen to more of him, and maybe we'll try to find a documentary. I'm not sure if there is one on Elliot Fisk. I don't know if any company was brave enough to make one, but we're gonna look for it regardless. But yeah, I mean, my opinion, at least on the what I heard with the Caprices, yeah, it's really rough. He misses like half of those notes, but man, he's really playing that thing. Like, he's kind of reminiscent of Julian Bream with like how he's showing you the music. It's very expressive and stuff, which I do like that. We'll dive deeper deeper into that. I think I'm ready to go ahead and get started. So let's make our way to the piano bench, shall we? Well, I'm gonna start with the Bach, of course. And yeah, I'll see you on the other side. Okay, I think I'm about ready to call it quits. Well, I worked on everything, and, well, let me bring you closer. I decided I'm going to start putting more effort into the sore Mozart variations. So that is what I'm going to play for you today. Only the first half of it, though. Don't worry, this ain't an extravaganza. Let me adjust that camera. Alright, and that was the first half. I have been doing a lot of slow practice with that. There's a lot of technical stuff that I still need to work out, and I'm going to focus on that over the next few weeks for sure, because I really want to clean that one up, make it really good, all that stuff. I've been working on that for a while. Okay, I think that pretty much wraps up the practicing portion of this thing, so let's go do something else for a while, shall we? Well, you guys have really sat through it. You sat through 5 remedial music theory lessons, and now we're finally able to apply it to the easiest piece on earth. Fernando Sor, Op.60, number 1. Starting with the first one. Let's go ahead and establish a few things, and we didn't cover like absolutely everything that we need, but I'm going to guide you through this analysis, so it's going to be okay. First thing that we need to establish when we're analyzing anything is what freaking key are we in. You can determine that based on this area over here, where we have the treble clef. We learned what that is. Right now we don't see any sharps or flats. If it were in a key other than C major, which is the only key that we've dealt with so far, there would be sharps or flats over here. And that doesn't really matter right now. We know that we're in the key of C major. So for this analysis, we're going to focus on 2 main chords, which we've talked about them a bit. It's the tonic chord and the dominant chord. The tonic chord is basically your like home-based chord. When you're hearing tonic, it doesn't really need to resolve anywhere. Let me actually get my guitar. And if you remember from what we talked about with the Roman numeral analysis, the tonic chord would be the 1 chord, which is when you build a triad in C major off of the first note, so that'd be C, E, G. Let's hear what all those sound like. So we have C, E, G. And when you hear that, it doesn't really need to go anywhere. Right, so it's pretty settled. And that's kind of the whole point of tonic. It is settled. Okay, and then our other chord is the 4-note chord that we build off of the 5, G, B, D, and F. Let's hear what that sounds like. So G, B, D, F. It's a little less settled, right? Especially that part. And it resolves like that. So that is how this works. As we mark 1 and 5 everywhere, essentially what we're saying is when it's tonic, that's like the release, and then when it's dominant, that's the tension. So we're gonna see the actual tension and release as we go. And we're just gonna deal with those 2 chords for now. We're gonna add a few more in a second. And something to keep in mind, this is not a piano score or like a full orchestration or anything like that. So we kind of need to use context clues to determine what a chord is. So for example, we have C starting off here, and then it goes down to B and then G. This is almost all the notes in a tonic chord. And you could say like, oh, C major with a B, that would be like a C major 7 chord, right? So the first bar is C major 7, that's what we're calling that. That's not really something you'd see for something like this, because we're really just focusing on the tonic and then dominant relationship. So I'm looking at the note C, just the single note C, and I am getting that it is implying the tonic. It's the 1 chord. And then when we go to the next half of the measure where we have B, G, those are the notes of the dominant. So I'm hearing 1 and then 5 there. So there we have our first note C. And then the dominant's following it immediately, which is really establishing what key we're in. Because that's really what a key is. It's just a tonic-dominant relationship. And that is C major. When you first learn scales, you might think that C major is actually like a scale, but it's really a tonic and dominant relationship. We get the scale from those 2 chords if we just line the notes up in order. So this first bar is really just establishing like, hey, we're in C major, tonic, dominant, and then we resolve from the G up to the C, which is a resolution you'll hear all the time. Right? And look at this, we're doing the exact same thing again. So 1 and then back to 5. So Sor is really telling us like, and then we resolve again to the 1. And now for this bar, we have a few more notes in this bar. So we have C, D, E, and then we have G. Again, there's not a whole lot of information to go off of on this, so we're going to use our imagination. C and E, those are on the beats 1 and 3. Those are the stronger beats, like in classical music and this sort of thing. Depending on what genre you're in, there are strong and weak beats. Like in jazz, 2 and 4 are strong. In classical, usually 1 and 3 will be strong. Like strong and weak beats, it's like kind of a thing, it's kind of not a thing, but this is what we're going to follow for this. So C to E, D is just acting as a passing tone. So we have our chord tones for the 1 chord, C and E, and then D is a stepping stone to get from C to E. And here's what that sounds like. We have C, E, tonic, and then we have... It's just a way to get there. From E, we jump up to G. this measure is all tonic, okay? So tonic for the whole thing. And I know before I said that we can change chords simply just by one note affecting it. Because if it weren't for that B, this would probably be a tonic measure. I mean, debatably, the G to C resolution is really strong. We're not going to call that D a 5 in second inversion or something like that. We're just going to consider that a passing tone between the tonic chords, C, D, E, and then up to G. And now look at this. Our next measure, we have F, E, D, and then G. Looking at the strong beats, 1 and 3, we have F and D. So 5 chord, the F is a smoking gun for 5-7 because that is the 7th of the chord. And same thing, E is falling on the weak beat and it's acting as a passing tone from F to D, and then we leap down to G, which is the root of the 5 chord. So this is all 5-7 here. So how this piece is going so far, we're establishing our key, and then 1, 5-7, resolve, back up. And now, talking about dynamics, because the whole reason we're doing this is to give us cues to interpret the music. I like for the tonic to be quiet, because it doesn't really need to be loud. We're just telling you what key we're in. And then what's special is when we kind of antagonize it with the dominant. So I'll go. Kind of see what I mean? Now, that's not something that you have to follow, but it's something that just kind of makes sense to me, and I know it makes sense to a lot of people to do it that way, and that's kind of the common way to do things. Make the dominant or anything that's like out there or important, make that louder, and then make the home bass stuff, the tonic, quieter. So that's the first phrase. We basically go tonic, dominant, and then a longer tonic. We're really exploring that triad using passing tones, and then we're introducing the 5-7 for the first time, that F. Same thing with passing tones. And it's kind of cool how we have passing tones and then a leap, passing tone, and then a leap. And then we leap back to resolve to C, which is right here. So that's the 1. And then B, G, that's the same thing, just 5 now. Here we have C, E, and then D, B. Things are getting changed up a little bit. We have CE, that's an obvious one. And then DB. We could use our imagination and call this a few things, but we're just gonna call this 5 right now. We could call this a 5-6-5 just because B is in the bass, but I don't think it's really that important right now. That's gonna be more important for the second line with the inversions. And that's why I even went into the inversions in the first place. This next measure is something new. Let's talk about this, and we'll probably just do the first line for today and call it there. All right, let's look at our notes. We have A, C, D, and we have F sharp. Oh my god. All right, let's talk about what this could be. First off, let's just figure out what chord this even is. What's the root of our chord? The way we do that, we need to organize these notes to where they are separated by thirds. So let's get our scale again. I'll have it here. It's really small. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Pick one of these notes. It could be A, and then we're just gonna count in thirds and see if the thirds stay consistent. A, C, and then E, and then F. E and F are right next to each other, so that doesn't work. I'll go ahead and tell you the answer. The root of this chord is going to be D, which is also the lowest note of the chord. So it's in root position. That's cool. Now, this is a 4-note chord, which that's important, because what is our 4-note chord usually? It's usually the dominant chord right now. So that's kind of interesting. What is the second chord usually in major? It's usually minor, and that'd be a minor third plus a major third, right? Well, in this case, we have F sharp, which makes this D major. So we have a major third, minor third, and then A to C is another minor third. That is a dominant 7 chord. Now, we have a dominant 7 chord on the second scale degree of major. Now, in a major key, we can only have a dominant chord naturally occurring starting on the 5th scale degree. All we know here is that usually a 2 would be minor, but in this case, it's going to be major, so we're doing an uppercase Roman numeral, right? That's the rules. And then we're also putting a 7 next to it. I've seen this before where it's like major 2, 7, and this is like what you would do if you didn't know all the rules, of course, right? But something to keep in mind, this is a dominant chord, and every dominant chord resolves. And here's a hint to where they resolve to. Look at the third. So in this case, it's F sharp. What is F sharp the leading tone of? It's resolving to G. So this D dominant chord is the dominant of G, which is the 5th scale degree, the 5. So what we have here is the 5-7 of the 5 of C major, and we call this a 5-7 of 5. This is called an applied dominant, and basically we're using it to tonicize a different note other than C. So in this case, we are leading to G, And now if we look at the last chord here, we have G, and then we have the stacked chord D, G, B, and then we have a low G. This is all just a G major triad, and we're ending on the 5 because we just played the dominant of the 5, which then resolves to the 5. Is that a little bit confusing? Let me try to explain this with just Roman numerals. We have the 1, that's the tonic, right? That's the 5 chord, the dominant. Now, usually the dominant is the 5 of 1, and in that case, if we have like C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, the 5 of 1 is going to be G that resolves down to C. Now, in this case, which let me actually add a few more notes just to make it easier to look at, all we're doing is we're playing a dominant chord on D, 2, and that is resolving to its 5, which is G in this case. So my point is, still in C major, we're just making D a dominant chord that is then resolving the same way that our G7 is resolving to C. This is what applied dominants are. Now you can do this to any note in C major. Like for example, let's take the 6. That's another really common one. So A is the 6th note of C major. If you were to take E and play E, G sharp, B, D, that's an E7 chord. That would resolve as the 5 of 6, and that would tonicize the 6. Let me actually play these for you. So we have C, 5 of 1. That's our home key. Usually D is this, D minor. In this case, it's going to be D7, which resolves to G, like that. And then E7, if we were to play E minor, E7 resolves to the A minor. So all these dominants just lead to their tonic. So really all this is just a way to telegraph where you're going to go next. That is what applied dominants are. We use them to tonicize other parts of the key. And when we end on the 5, that's known as a half cadence. We haven't learned about cadences yet at all, but so, you know, it doesn't matter. Just know that we're ending in a way that really isn't that resolved, and the song will probably continue. And if we look ahead here, that's going to end on a C major chord. So this is our really simple analysis of this so far. And you can follow along with it while you hear me play it and hear how I'm kind of controlling the dynamics with it. Resolve. And then that F, maybe bring that out, because that's like an important note. And then that is really important. And make a big deal about ending on G, because that's like kind of weird, right? We started in C. So what? And then we repeat. Maybe change the tone. Again. Alright, so that was the analysis of the first half. We'll do the next half later. But yeah, pretty cool, right? So that's how I think about this stuff, and you can see how my dynamics change based on that. I think that's a lot more effective than just kind of randomly hearing the notes and changing without thinking about this stuff. And the cool thing is you can learn how to do this and then completely ignore all the dynamic cues that I'm talking about. And this will just help you with memorizing the piece too. Because this isn't just a random assortment of notes, it's all based on the tonic and dominant chord. So if you know those really well, you can memorize this piece because it's just tonic, the root note, and then the dominant, tonic, and then you hear the difference there. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Alright, we'll put it away for now, but hopefully you got something from that and found that interesting. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up, shall we? Alright, well, hopefully you enjoyed all that. And if you made it this far, you know, be sure to subscribe, all that stuff. So we'll finish up that analysis next time. Maybe not the next one, but maybe later this week. Oh, and if you have any questions about anything, be sure to leave a comment. Or if you just want to say hi, that's fine too. I'm gonna go start my day now. So, I'll see you tonight.